Springfield's Talk 1041, and it is Thursday, everyone, which means tomorrow's Friday. Clearly. It is a special Friday, however. It is a Heroes Breakfast Friday, which means that if you happen to be a veteran, you're going to get free breakfast while we broadcast live out at Scramblers. Now, the Friday Roadshow at Scramblers is always sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting, which is powered by 3M Window Film. But about once a month or so, for those of you that aren't familiar with our Heroes Breakfast, we do a free breakfast for veterans, and that is thanks to Scramblers, our friends at Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, and Serenity Honors. And as a veteran, all you have to do is show up. We've had people ask before, well, what sort of identification do I have? We trust you. We trust you. We're just very trusting people in that way. So we would love for you to join us. That will be tomorrow. And you know something that I have failed to promote, if you will?
What?
It's because it's not top of mind. It was launched last week while I was on vacation, those stickers.
Yes.
So what do people need to know about them?
So they were created by our friends over at Springfield Wraps, which they wrapped our studio. So if you watch on our YouTube live, you'll be able to see some of the amazing work that they have done. But they created a couple of different designs for us. We have just a regular American flag. It's got the little Springfield Wraps logo at the bottom. And then they created the iconic photo that came out of the attempted assassination of Trump, where he gets up and he raises his fist in the air and he's got blood on his face, and it's right before he's yelling fight, and it's got the American flag in the background. So if you want one of these window decals, all you got to do is you can stop by the station. We give them out 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. or we will have some with us when we are out at Scramblers tomorrow.
Yeah.
So just swing by 6 to 9 and grab a couple. We do have a limit on them because we have just a very few left. So if you want one of the Trump ones, I think there's a limit of 2 on these. And then if you want one of the American flag ones, I think there is a limit of 4. So yeah, that's all you need to know.
Christy Filnecki will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. 8 o'clock hour, we have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu addressing Congress, a number of Democrats, including Kamala Harris, boycotting the Jewish leader of Israel, showing solidarity with those who are anti-Israel. Many of which stood outside burning American flags, hoisting Palestinian flags, calling for death to America. So the bedfellows are fully available for view. The Kamala Harris wing of the Democrat Party, along with the Hamas-supporting anti-Semites. And I got to give this to her at least. She's not backing away from it. You know, once upon a time, Democrats attempted, and I think there were some more moderate Democrats within the party, but even those that were not felt that it was in the best interest of the Democrat Party to hide the anti-Semitism. And it was because they understood that most Americans did not find that sort of thing appealing, which is why they tried to label Republicans as neo-Nazis, when in fact their party is the party that houses the neo-Nazis. But one of the biggest problems that I have with elected officials, Republican or Democrat, particularly when they run for office, is claiming to be something they're not. This time of year, particularly in this part of the state, as we have primary elections, you see it a lot. All of a sudden, you have tax and spend left-wing politicians like Lincoln Huff and Kehoe and others. They're the most conservative tax cutters ever. And it's like, just be honest about who you are. Don't lie. And Kamala Harris willing to stand up with her anti-Semitic comrades and boycott the address before Congress yesterday. I got to give her something for that. Biden making his address, we'll talk about that. I think everyone was confused. He was confused. We're confused. I walked away, as many of you probably did as well, thinking, so why is he not running for re-election? Because according to him, everything's going incredible. The way he talks, he should have a 50-state landslide. I mean, everything is peachy. The economy's wonderful. According to him, we are in no military conflicts. We're not involved in anything whatsoever. I mean, it's just you could not ask for a more historically better time than we are experiencing today. So, by all accounts, who wouldn't run for re-election under those conditions? The White House is also saying that the reason he's not running has nothing to do with his health. So it's not because of the results of his presidency. It's not because of his health. That's one thing that he didn't address. Why not run for re-election? We're all supposed to, of course, just pretend like that wasn't a component of last night's, or that wasn't a lacking component. I think a question that should be asked, or even rhetorically put out there as part of the narrative, involves Kamala Harris and her clear knowledge of Biden's cognitive decline. Because according to her own, this is what she has said in the past. She sees Joe every day. She has seen Joe with world leaders. She sees Joe, with rooms full of people, and he runs circles around them. This means one of two things. Either she was lying and knowingly covering for someone that could clearly, many would argue that he already has, but put our country in dire straits. She cared so little about the security of this nation and so much for her own self-preservation as, somebody in the White House. She did not want to ruffle any feathers or do anything that might cause the knives to come out for her. So she played the game and covered for him for political reasons. Or she is so unobservant, so, dare I say, stupid, she really, truly did not realize, as her level of intellect, or lack thereof, is to some degree so on par with Biden's in his declined state that she thought he was just fine. I mean, it's got to be one of those two. Now, I think we all know, reasonable people recognize that she knew. She participated in the cover-up at the expense of our country for her own political purposes. But if I were Republicans, I might play the other card and say, if Kamala Harris did not have the judgment to recognize Joe Biden's problems, does she really have the judgment to be president of the United States? This woman really, she could not. She saw Joe Biden every single day and thought that he was at the top of his game? Now, this may seem somewhat incidental, but there was on MSNBC a panel. They've been up in Wisconsin, and we have some audio that was part of these different panels they're doing. One yesterday with women who don't like Kamala. But the day prior, there was a panel of mixed individuals, none of which were very excited about Kamala. But one of the gals had talked about her concerns about the fact that Kamala Harris was part of the cover-up. And I believe it was David Axelrod or one of these Democrat talkers, commentators, contributors, who remarked that he has been surprised at how much of an issue that is. Which is pretty funny and telling about the Democrat Party. They're like, we just really didn't think that this lie was one that would bother people so much. We thought that people would just brush it off, and frankly, I understand their thinking. Their thinking is, well, of course she's going to lie about it. I mean, what's she going to do? Is she going to sacrifice her political future for the sake of the country? Of course not. I mean, of course she's going to lie and cover it up. And I think because in their minds that makes sense. In their minds, that's an absolute no-brainer. they think that it would be that way with a majority of voters. They'd be like, oh, well, of course we're going to get lied to over that. I mean, that makes sense. And then not only view it that way, but be okay with it. And apparently, there are more Americans that recognize it and at the same time are not okay with it than were expected. And so I that's a question that I would ask. I wouldn't ask it as much as just present it as if she didn't know. That she didn't know. Just put that out there. What is she what are her defenders going to say? Yes, she did. She knew about it. She's a liar. She's not an idiot. Springfield's Talk 1041. We're going to have a look at the weather in a moment. Right now, latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we do have a slight chance of showers after 1 p.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 89. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 68. On Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And for your Saturday, we do have a 50% chance of showers and then partly sunny with a high near 83.
Okay. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., Local for Less. This is at ksgf.com. 10 a.m., going live. $25 gift certificates for only $12.50. Cabos Bonitos Grill and Cantina, and you can get up to 4 of them if you'd like. So that'll be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Live right now, your last chance to win a pair of tickets to see Aaron Lewis Saturday, August 3rd in Lampe at the Black Oak Amphitheater for the American Patriot Tour. So a couple of reasons for you to go over to ksgf.com. Did you watch the Biden or listen to the Biden speech last night?
I listened to a portion of
I mean,
it.
I don't know what anybody really expected. He made it through it all right. He seemed kind of tired. It's just the whole... And it's the same lies. It's the greatest economy ever. He's securing the border. He created 16 million jobs. All of these things that it's like, if this were true, you would not be not running for president for a second term. It is a Twilight Zone episode trying to track and follow these people. Someone had posted... Okay, let me pull it up and read it exactly because I had texted it to someone. And it was a meme that said, "We're really living in the most difficult section of someone's history exam in 2060. So, in other words, some student in 2060, they're going to be taking a history exam about all this, and it's going to be like the most confusing and difficult thing. I mean, you should think about it, all right? So, you're looking back in history, decades past, a period of time that, might as well be 3,000 years ago. And here you've got a guy, president of the United States, and he's been the most successful president ever. Had the best economy ever, securing the border. I mean, just everything he has done. And this is what Democrats say. I mean, he has done more in one term than historically any other president has managed to get done in 2. It's absolutely remarkable what he's done. But then his own party forces him to not run for re-election. Now, if you're a history, you're taking this history exam, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand that. And it's all in the context of apparently, well, I don't know what it is. I guess this quiz, either every answer you give is right or every answer you give is wrong. Because, okay, it's about his health. Well, no, it's not about his health. It depends on what Democrat you listen to.
He never really gave a reason.
Well, no, he didn't give a reason.
He didn't give a reason. And the best part is the whole speech was supposed to be why he was ending his campaign.
Exactly. Well, to save democracy.
Yep.
But but here's the question, because that's their answer, to save democracy. Well, why is that dependent upon you dropping out? Explain that. That's the connection. That's what we want to know. Why is you dropping out necessary in order to save democracy? Well, then to further the confusion, if you're a student taking a history exam on this period of time in the future, you're like, okay, so his own party forced him out, despite the fact that he was the most successful president in the history of the country. But they evidently believed that he couldn't win re-election. So who was it that they decided to anoint to run in his place? Oh, the person from the exact same administration whose popularity was even a little bit less than his. That makes sense of that. I mean, this is just factual information. And then, did she know that... She said he's the smartest guy in the world. She meets with him every day, has lunch with him every day, or lunch once a week. I forgot which she claimed, but that she sees him every day, works with him every day. She didn't observe any of this odd behavior that the rest of us have been seeing for some time now. World leaders. But Jake Tapper acknowledged, or maybe it was Chuck Todd. I think it was Jake Tapper. Once the cat was out of the bag, that it was either 2 years ago or he had been told by an advisor for the past 2 years. They've all known that this was a problem. Kamala Harris is the one person who didn't notice? The person who sees him every day? That does not call... Should we not be questioning her judgment? Is she all there? If you, you imagine the history quiz in 2060 for 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders. All right, we're going to show you this. I don't know what it's about. 10-minute speech, 15-minute speech, somewhere around there, of the president of the United States, most successful president of the United States, according to his own political party, who then forced him out for reasons that nobody can figure out if you listen to what they say. Listen to this and then tell us why. This is it's an essay exam. One question. Tell us why this president felt it was necessary for him to drop out based off of this speech. Because, there's history students. They have no other context. Based off this speech, why is it he is saying that it's necessary for him to drop out in order to save democracy? I'd love to see what answers there were. Like, is there more to this video? Is there more to the speech? Is this the right speech? Did I download the right file? I suppose it is the perfect parting gift symbolically from this administration, given it just the gaslighting that has gone on this entire 3.5 thus far years of this administration. The economy's wonderful. What inflation? The border's secure. You just go down the list of things that we've been told. Joe Biden is fit as a fiddle and sharp as a tack. A year ago, Kamala Harris, he needs to drop her from the campaign. She's a problem. Now, oh no, Kamala Harris is the greatest thing. Oh, and then the latest. Do you know Kamala Harris was never even the border czar? She never was supposed to fix the border. This is... People at this point who pay attention and are honest, they get it. I don't even really get aggravated any longer when the media does these complete immoral gaslighting about faces. The most recent being that Kamala Harris, her job was never to secure the border. No. That's not true. That's not true. Because at this point, people know. And I think, in fact, it hurts her. The media trying to help her at this point, much like the media trying to help Joe Biden during the period of time they were, it's counterproductive because people smell it. They're like, okay, all right. It would be one thing for the media to try and justify why it was that under her power as border czar that things didn't work out. That's one thing. For the media to excuse it, well, it's not really her fault. You got to understand this occurred and that occurred. But to just flat out claim that it was never part of her job description whatsoever, people pick up on that. And they're like, okay, obviously they're covering for her. And that's not good for her. It's good for America in the big picture because the media is already no longer the media of the people. It's the media of the Democrat Party. And the more that people realize that and recognize that, the better we are at making decisions based on reality. Because we may not necessarily know where to look, but we certainly know where not to look for information. Weather in a moment. Now the latest traffic.
What 041, your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we do have a slight chance of showers that'll happen around 1 p.m. Otherwise sunny with a high near 89. Tonight partly cloudy skies with a low around 68. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And we do have a 50% chance of showers and then partly sunny with a high near 83 for your Saturday.
Does this bring back memories? Wasn't that your first concert?
Yeah, is this Smash Mouth?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah. That was
Yeah.
my very first concert. The old Ozark Empire Fairs. Isn't that kicking off today?
Oh yeah, I guess it is, right?
Oh, did it happen? Did it
no,
open
Thursday.
yesterday? Yeah.
I think it doesn't it kick off on Thursdays?
Maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been to the fair.
It's been since last year.
There you go. You'd never been before since last year, right?
The year I went the year before.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know how. I mean, I swear I've been to every rinky-dink county fair throughout the Ozarks growing up my entire life. But for whatever reason, I had never been to the Ozark Empire Fair. And then 2 or 3 years ago, we took the girl child and some friends, and then last year so it's either been 2 or 3 years that we've gone, and I'm sure we'll go again this year.
There you go.
It's
Get
always
you
just
funnel cake.
It's always just hot as can be.
It's not going to be terrible. For
Yeah,
Saturday, 83.
That actually, it will probably be mayhem there.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
on a Saturday, 83 degrees. Yeah, but the following week it's in the 90s, I think, is it not?
I didn't look that far ahead. I'm sure probably is. Darren Chappell says that the hottest day of the year is on Free Ride Day or Half Ride Day.
That's
Price
the way it
Ride
always
Day.
is. It is. Yeah, that's the way it always is. So hot. There is an ad that is running, and this gives you a true sense, particularly in states like Pennsylvania, truly whether or not Kamala Harris is believed to be a good pick. Now, Democrats in the media are acting like this is historic. This is amazing. Cultural phenomenon. Did you know that? Did you know she's a cultural phenomenon? That's what Van Jones called her.
Okay.
Cultural phenomenon. I think it was Van Jones. This is part of the problem with the Democrats. Adam Schiff said, as another example, that you would be hard-pressed to find anyone in history that is better prepared to be president of the United States than Kamala Harris. In history. So if you are to believe his perspective, she is better prepared than George Washington, better fit than Abraham Lincoln, than JFK, than Ronald Reagan, than Barack Obama. The Democrats have this inability to rein it in. Like, okay, bring it down just a few pegs because you're sounding ridiculous. It's one thing to go out there and be like, hey, if I'm a Democrat, this is what I'm doing. Kamala Harris is great. She's great, new blood. You know what? Yeah, she's not perfect and polished because, frankly, she did run a presidential campaign and it just, sputtered out. But there were a lot of different people involved in that race, a lot of components. It was her first go at it. Guess what? Most people who run for president the first time don't get elected. So that's no big deal. And yeah, is she perfect? She's made some mistakes and so forth. There is a degree of a learning curve when it comes to running for president. But guess what? The learning curve of being in the White House, she's already gotten that under her belt. And so we got great, we've got great sense of encouragement that this is going to be. Now, if I'm a Democrat and I'm trying to sell her, that's what I'm doing. Because people who may be on the fence about her, who are like, I don't really know, I think that they would hear that and go, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. They may not necessarily buy it, but they'll lock it away as something to remember, something to reference as they observe her. You get these idiots like Adam Schiff out there. She's the most qualified person in the history of the country to ever be president of the United States. You're like, what the hell? Shut up, you idiot. I mean, these people, they're just so disgusting. So disgusting. Out in Pennsylvania, you've got an incumbent Democrat running for re-election for the U.S. Senate, Senator Bob Casey Jr. And against him is Dave McCormick. And as soon as it was determined that Democrats had succeeded in overturning the 50 different primary and caucus elections for Joe Biden, and they were going to install Kamala Harris, these ads began running in Pennsylvania.
Kamala Harris is capable. People get to know her.
It's Bob Casey talking.
Has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross border. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a fine across the border without documentation.
Yeah, is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated. It is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid.
Yes. Yes.
To reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bombers, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation. We have to have a buyback program, and I support the unemployment buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
We did it, Joe. Now, some of it, there were visuals in there that were important as well. So that whole ad began with, because it's an anti-Bob Casey ad in Pennsylvania. He is the Democrat incumbent U.S. Senator running for re-election. He's considered vulnerable. And the ad begins with him praising Kamala Harris. And then the next, this is obviously an internet ad because I think it's a minute and a half long, but regardless. It's just Kamala. This is being seen as a model to Republicans. This is what you need to do. I think that says something about the reality of Kamala Harris and her popularity. Democrats can claim all they want. She's so wonderful. She's so popular. She's so incredible. Everyone loves her. If that were really, truly the case, do you think that Republicans would be running an ad connecting her to Bob Casey? They're not doing that because she's popular. Bob Casey's not the one running this ad. Democrats are not running this ad. Republicans are. It's also very powerful because it's her. There is a difference between these ads that, you know, and you hear them all the time. We've got them here. It's the couple at the kitchen table, and, this is an interesting race. What are you talking about, honey? As you hear the silverware clinking in the background. Well, Kamala Harris, according to this and that, was the most liberal U.S. senator ever. We don't like those values here in Missouri. You know, or just the voice guy stuff. You use her. And I suspect that you're going to see quite a bit of that. And I think that it's going to be successful. The Kamala Harris has not moved the needle in any significant way. And it's difficult for many of us to imagine that she is still relatively unknown to a significant portion of the population. They know her name, but they don't know the word salads. They don't know her like you know her, because they just don't follow this stuff. They don't pay attention, or they watch CNN, MSNBC. And right now, they're being fed all of this propaganda about how wonderful she is, the opposite of what the media was saying about her a year ago, which was Biden needed to drop her. The challenge that Kamala has, and I think Democrats know this, is that the more people know her, the more they do not like her. So the unknown factor does not work in her favor. And it is going to be interesting to see whether or not they, to some degree, try and run her like they ran Joe Biden the first time around, and that is, let's not really have her do a whole heck of a lot. Hopefully, they self-delude themselves into believing their own propaganda and that she's wonderful and articulate and gives these amazing speeches, because that means that they're going to put her out there for the rest of us to see. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs and tires now as well. Full tire, not just, well, I've been going to A1 Custom Car Care for years. I get my tire rotation when I need it. No, what about buying new tires? No longer a separate location do you have to go. You can purchase brand new tires at any of the A1 Custom Car Care locations. There was a report earlier this week that the reason Obama was not endorsing Kamala Harris was because he did not want to contribute to the appearance or make it appear that she was being anointed, that Democrats were defying democracy, were overturning elections in 50 states for Joe Biden and just appointing her. And I, for a number of reasons, believe that not to be true. One, because everyone already knows that anyway. But secondly, I believed that it was because of his reputation. I believe that he thinks that she cannot win, and he really doesn't have that good of a track record when it comes to this sort of thing. He endorsed, you think about it, when Joe Biden was wanting to run the first time, he chose Hillary over Joe Biden, and who ended up winning? Trump did. And then who ended up beating Trump later, in quotes, beating? It was Joe Biden. And so he, this track record of his isn't necessary. And then, Biden, of course, he would reluctantly come along and at the last minute support him. And Biden's turned out to be such a disaster that he has had to drop out just a couple of weeks before the convention, despite winning all 50 states in the primary caucus system. And I think that Biden is tired of getting burned by this stuff. Sorry, Obama is tired of getting burned by this stuff, and he thinks Kamala Harris cannot win. Well, apparently, this is what sources are now saying. And I suspect they're saying it on his behalf because he wants people to know that this is why. According to a piece in the New York Post, quote, Obama's very upset because he knows she cannot win. This is an Obama source. Obama knows that she's just incompetent. The border czar, who never visited the border, saying that all migrants should have health insurance. She cannot navigate the landmines that are ahead of her. When you are running for president, there are things that you can and cannot say, the source added. Quote, wait until the debate. She can't debate. She's going to put her foot in her mouth about Israel, Palestine, Ukraine. She's going to say something really stupid, the source said. Obama knew this was going to happen. Joe knew that this was going to happen. Now she's going to have to answer real questions. Of course, Obama played an instrumental role in getting Biden to drop out. There's no question about that. The George Clooney connection, because George Clooney is such a great representation of the everyday average working man. But according to the Obama source, now whether this is true and or not, but this is what they want. The Obama camp wants the narrative to be that he didn't know that Kamala was going to be endorsed by Biden. I find that hard to believe, but this is what the Biden camp wants people to believe. The source told the New York Post Obama was shocked on the moment that Biden pushed Harris, adding that Obama grew furious to the point that he has refused to endorse Harris. Another Democrat source dismissed it as Obama being upset by a personal slight, saying Obama being surprised by a smart political decision actually made sense, or actually makes sense when coupled with his personal inability to see politics beyond his singular immediate interests. The source said Obama always thinks he is the smartest and coolest guy in the room. He's friends with George Clooney, after all. So somebody within the Biden camp obviously taking a jab there at Obama. But what's important here is I think Obama is being honest with himself. He's being realistic in his belief that Kamala. Now, I think he probably believes it is possible, as I believe that it is possible. Anything's possible. But I do not believe that it's likely. And I do not believe that it increases the chances that the Democrats are going to get the White House. And I think Obama believes that too. And that's why I think Obama, he wants nothing to do with this. He wants to make sure that everyone knows that this was not his idea. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Red State has the perfect headline to illustrate where we are in the country today. Axios goes full Soviet, starts editing published articles to protect Kamala Harris. This is all centered around the attempt to try and erase people's memories regarding Kamala's biggest job. It wasn't her one job, but her biggest job was the border. Biden gave that to her. Made a big announcement, an official announcement about it. Hence the term border czar. This was a term that the average person did not come up with this. It wasn't a grassroots term. This was a term that began being used because the media was using it. And they were using it because they were trying to build her up. This is how much trust he has in her. This isn't some small little normal vice presidential job. This is a big deal. She is the border czar. They gave her that term in order to really give it weightiness. Well, the problem now, of course, is the fact that vying for the first, it's always number one or two biggest concern that Americans have is the border and the complete disaster that is the border. So having Kamala Harris run with the title of border czar attached to her isn't necessarily good campaign material. So what do they have to do? They have to try and rewrite history and claim that, well, she never was a border czar. No, there's not even such a position as a czar. Well, okay, yes, that is technically true. Yet where do you think this term came from? It came from you all. Now, this is the Soviet style editing that outlets like Axios is doing because it becomes very easy to disprove this. And in fact, immediately when Axios puts out a story saying she never was border czar, this is just something Republicans are trying to saddle her with in order to falsely convince people that she failed at the job of securing the border. So immediately people begin posting their stories from the time that she became quote border czar or during her presidency, the vice presidency here, articles about the border referencing her as the border czar. So, you know how Axios deals with that? They say, oh, yeah, we were wrong. Yeah, that bad on us. We were wrong. She wasn't the border czar. I don't know why we put that. We shouldn't have put that. We were just wrong, so just forget about that. Today is a new day. This is the world that the Democrats have given us. Soviet-style journalism. How far Biden has been historic, I'll give him that. Wilder RV. That's right. If you have RV needs, Wilder RV. I don't have an RV, so I don't have RV needs. That may be why you need RVs in your life, or at least one for you and your family. Maybe you live alone. Maybe you're retired. You're not retired. You want to travel or just be able to get away 20 miles away, go camping, and do it without having the tent or have the tent and the RV. It's up to you. So many different varieties, and at only $165 a month, that is possible. Go to wilderrv.com. You can see all the different varieties and options they have, and you can see a nice family RV for $165 a month, and so many other options beyond that as well. And if you want to take a visit, Clinton, Missouri, it's just a little over an hour north of Springfield on 13. Well worth the visit. People from all over the country, because of their reputation and their supply of product, go to Wilder RV, and again, wilderrv.com, KSGF.com. You can find them under Nick's endorsements if you would like to do so. And look at that, everyone. Christy Fulnick.
Hello.
How are you there?
I'm doing awesome.
It's been like a month or so.
I don't think it's been a couple weeks.
Have you been in here? Were you in here after the debate even? I don't remember.
No, I wasn't. I was here when they were talking about putting Trump in jail. And talk about a political lifetime in the past few weeks.
So I bet you were here because was the debate on a Thursday? I think it was. Okay, so I bet you were here the morning before the debate.
Yeah,
the morning of the
right.
debate. Yeah. I was thinking
things could happen in such a short period of time. I'm not sure, but they all just happen.
Think about that debate. I mean, it really one debate. Look what it did.
Oh, I know.
I mean that's what did it.
Yeah.
A debate toppled a presidency, or at least a presidential campaign.
We didn't know if it was that because everyone kept saying something was going to happen in July. So, I mean, maybe I think they just use that as an excuse.
I think that's why the debate was when it was. I said that from the beginning.
Yeah,
I said that it was historically early.
Yeah.
To have it so far in advance of the Democrats' actual nomination process at the convention, I said the only reason that I could think of to have it that early was that sort of either a make it or break it scenario or in the context of that convention, so that it could be it was a fork in the road to either be like, okay, he kind of made it through, we're going to stick with him, or to say, okay, we got to dump this guy. And there are some who have said that there were the powers that be within the Democrat Party that knew that he wasn't going to be able to do it, and they wanted him to crash and burn on his own. So they knew that was going to happen, and they didn't want it to happen after the convention because then they'd be screwed.
Yeah.
So they deliberately put it up there. But I just knew that's why it was so early. Everyone kept saying, well, it's because, early voting and stuff. I'm like, no, I just don't buy that. And because I do think also that a lot of the Democrats, some of them did know he would crash and burn, and they wanted to get it done before the convention. Because otherwise, why would they have it so early? It just didn't make any sense. But no need to rehash it.
And who in their right mind, especially those people that saw the debate, the Democrats, I mean, and the people that are around him, think that he could actually do this? I mean, they knew that he was declining for like years. So, I mean, you'd have to be in total denial not to admit that something's wrong with him. I think they had it planned. So this just gave him a public excuse.
It's unfortunate that debate happened before the convention in retrospect for Republicans.
Right. Yeah,
can you imagine how different things would look? Because if that debate had not taken place, we would still every day be told that these different instances of Joe Biden getting confused or whatever, those were deep fakes or cheap fakes, that these were just Republican talking points, that we'd still have Democrats out there saying, well, the Joe Biden I see behind closed doors, he's as fit as can be. And that would still be going on today.
Yeah.
And he would get that nomination, and then they would have a debate.
Yeah.
How different the landscape would be.
In charge, I think, though, knew that they didn't want to go through the primary, that they wanted to push him out at the end.
Yeah.
I really think that.
I was right.
And
I was right on it.
You were right.
I was
You did a
right
good
on
job
that.
on that one.
Well, I don't win it. I win nothing for it.
The crazy thing is that if you take any one of those political events, such as the convention, I mean, the convention, I don't know how many how many do you think you've seen? I think I've seen 8 maybe that I can remember actually sitting down. And I mean, that's like, the Super Bowl for those of us that follow politics closely. Yeah, the nerds, the ones that record it, so they can make sure that they watch it. Those, because they're like, why are you? I said, you don't remember me watching the whole thing? I mean, every 4 years.
Do you know when I knew I was a nerd? When I really realized it and accepted it. I think I always suspected. It's probably like people who start to wonder if they're gay. I for a while I was like, am I a nerd? Maybe I'm not a nerd. When I knew I was a nerd was when and I was just out of high school. So it was the late night. It was during the Clinton administration. And the Clintons had been taking illegal cash from the communist Chinese, big shocker. And Fred Thompson was chairing hearings over them. And I had a roommate, but we had, no money at all.
Yeah.
And but I signed up for basic cable so I could get C-SPAN to watch those hearings. And that's when I just accepted it.
That's great.
That is when I was like, you know what? I came out of the closet. Christy Fulnecki with us, going to get a news weather update and more ahead. Of course, the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we do have a slight chance of showers around 1 p.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 89. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 68. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, a 50% chance of showers, and then partly sunny with a high near 83.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki is with us
Good
this
morning,
morning.
good morning.
So, you must be excited as a woman. You now have someone to support,
Oh my
Kamala
gosh.
Harris, because
Yeah,
you're a
it was
woman.
So pathetic. That's what I was like.
But you're
Know what a woman is, okay? They don't know what a woman is. So how in the world are they supposed to say to vote for this woman? And how do we even know she's a woman?
That's true. Has she? I don't know. Has she told us her pronouns?
I'm sure she probably has it in her Instagram bio.
I know. That's so pathetic.
MSNBC had a panel of women up in Wisconsin asking them, of course, they're women. So, I mean, and if you are a woman of color in particular, you definitely are supposed to support them. But here they are having a conversation on MSNBC with some women in Wisconsin.
It's an experience.
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was supposed to be doing and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well, it isn't. It not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. I would know RFK Jr. way before her.
Yeah.
Same. Absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
I think get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right. Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
That's epic.
What's
TV commercial?
What's fascinating to me is this is a MSNBC.
Yeah, right.
This isn't some right-wing network that went and handpicked a bunch of right-wing women in Wisconsin or anything. I mean, and yesterday they had a panel of, it was a mixture of genders, boys and girls, and the whole spectrum, I imagine. Right. And none of them were overly impressed either. They're like, well, and one of them voiced a great deal of concern. It was a woman. About the fact that she's obviously been part of covering up his incompetency this whole time. I mean, if she's going to cover that up as vice president, what is she going to cover up as president?
Well, those are just real people, Nick. I mean,
That's true.
I don't know.
It's not George Clooney. Where's George Clooney? I want to know what George Clooney has to say.
Idiot Americans.
I want to know what Jennifer Lawrence has to say. Where can we please hear from them?
Really? I mean,
I'm sure we will. I'm sure that the Kamala campaign
American that has said that they like her. I mean, it's been everyone in the media, but I mean, has anybody else?
Well, you'll find some Democratic activists but that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to get cheerleaders to go out there and get them riled up.
BLM wants to have an open convention. Then it's a major problem.
So listen to the. Well, I want to take this break, and then the Democrats ramrodded Biden through. I mean, they knew he was going to win. I mean, I assumed that they knew he was going to win. I figured that he would win. But at the same time, they were moving things around, dates around. They wanted South Carolina to be first because they thought he'd show strongest there. They didn't want Iowa to be first because they were afraid that a challenger would come in. They made it so difficult for RFK Jr. to participate, and they refused to have debates. That's why he ran as an independent. People forget he was running as a Democrat until he realized that the system, they were rigging it. So they rigged it for Joe Biden to win. Well, then, then the voters do what they want, vote for him, and they're like, never mind, here's Kamala. Well, now they're changing the rules for the DNC convention in order to ramrod her in now to make sure that she doesn't have any challengers. So it's the same thing again. More on that coming.
Dictatorship.
Oh, This is what's called defending democracy. Chrissy Fulnecki joining us. Democrats to confirm nominee by virtual roll call weeks before the DNC in order to avoid challenges to Kamala. So they're why even
cheating? Why I know
why
why even have rules? Why even try?
Why even have elections if you're Democrats?
I know, yeah.
Just say, listen, we'll tell you in August who it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's just it. You think of think about the people, hardworking people living paycheck to paycheck that they get money from in order to put on these campaigns to get people to vote. And it's irrelevant. So the Democratic National Committee announced yesterday it's going to hold a virtual roll call on the party's presidential and vice presidential nominee weeks ahead of the actual convention in order to avoid any potential challenges. It was suggested Republicans could challenge the inclusion of the Democratic nominee on a number of state ballots and so forth, because you do have timing issues here. But candidates will now have until July 27th to declare their candidacies with the convention and until July 30th to show that they've met the qualifications for the nomination. So they're giving them 3 days. And here's the problem, wow. But here's the other problem. The convention, the thing about or if you call it an open convention, is that you are there with all of these other people, access to these people to lobby them, to go around and to group together and to communicate and to network. Well, you don't have that ability if you're not at the convention to do that.
Right.
So what they've done is they say, okay, and they right out of the gate, Kamala has enough delegates already. Okay, that's what they said. Enough delegates have said that they're going to go ahead and throw their support. So if there is somebody that wants to challenge that, in other words, because the delegates aren't tied to that, right, until they vote for it. But that's the whole point of the convention, is if you do have challengers, to go to those delegates and to say, hey, here's why I think I'd be a better choice. They get, make their speeches. Here's why I think that Kamala's vulnerable. But what they're wanting to do is lock her in before the convention so that no challengers have the ability to actually challenge her. They're saying, no, there could be challengers. Well, but they can't participate because it's before the convention.
Yeah, and
what are you going to do?
yeah.
Look up all of the different delegates and start calling them and emailing them, and it just doesn't work that way. So it's, once again, the Democrats they rigged the first time around, and this isn't the first time they've rigged the system. Bernie Sanders has fully acknowledged that it was rigged against him whenever Hillary Clinton got the nomination. Now they rigged this last one, and when it blew up in their face because they realized that Biden can't win, they're now rigging the convention.
But the good thing is this is happening right in front of people. And so before they couldn't really see it on display, but the good thing is that they can totally see it. It'd be interesting to interview one of those delegates and be like, hey, how much pressure are you getting? Because do you want to be the only one that's going to say, like, I don't think we should do this, Genuinely,
I don't understand why any Democrat would donate money in a primary for the president.
Right,
why?
right.
What is the point?
That's true.
I would want my money back. If I donated money in order to get Biden the nomination, I would want my money back.
Yeah.
I genuinely would, and I think Democrats should get it back because the whole thing was a fraud.
Well, I don't know. At least we're seeing it play out in front of us. I mean,
but don't forget, Republicans are the threat to democracy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is such Soviet style.
It is.
Like where
it is a dictatorship.
Yeah, the party just, it's all for show. They pretend, and then and they all get in line. Now they're all like, "Oh, yay, Kamala!" And if for whatever reason, and this is what they're trying to prevent. See, is Kamala gets out there and she's got a couple of weeks and the polls are not going her way. And then at the convention, because this is exactly what would happen, you would have delegates that aren't on board with her that would say, look, she's not polling any better than Biden. If we forced Biden to drop out saying he could not win because of his poll numbers, then what is the argument for her? And they know that argument's there. Now, why it is that there are some that are so intent on it being her when she doesn't do it, that I don't know for sure. I mean that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah, but if she can't win, is the thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Unless they think, well, we still have time. We can improve her numbers. I mean, and they may also realistically think, and okay, I got to figure it out. Here's why, potentially.
Yeah.
They don't believe that anyone really at this point has any better chance than Kamala to beat Trump. They just don't think anybody else is going to be able to come along and do it. So why have that horrific mess at the convention if it's not going to produce anything beneficial anyway? I could see that being the position. If we if we don't rig this ahead of time and we actually have an open convention, all it's going to do is continue this mess. All it's going to do is put this fight on full display. It's going to show total disunity, and it's not like we're going to get something out of it that helps us. Because if Kamala still gets the nomination, it weakens her because it shows that the entire party's not behind her. So that's not going to help, and so that's got to be the reason they want to rig it.
Setting in how radical they are, because I mean they could have gone with Kennedy or that governor from Pennsylvania, or
but he's Jewish.
They have other choices. It's not like they don't have other governors that are Democrats, but I mean it just shows you how extreme that they are, that they don't want to use any of those. But I don't know. It's just totally chaos, the whole thing. But the average, that I would hope, the average Democrat, which I don't know who that is anymore.
Or what that means.
I know. I don't even know who that is. The thing that I'm worried about is just how much, is there a new way they're going to cheat? That's what I keep thinking. Like, they probably won't win on the merits, but
I don't know that there are any new ways. I think that with the COVID stuff and so the ballot harvesting, the early voting, the drop boxes, they had that last time though.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there are any additional venues for them to cheat.
Have they all changed in all those states?
No,
that they were.
No,
are they all still the same?
I think it varies. I think it varies from state to state. We got to get traffic, but I do want to address that here, the whole cheating component of this in a moment. With Christy Fulnecki with us this morning. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we do have a slight chance of showers after 1 p.m., otherwise sunny skies with a high near 89. Tonight partly cloudy with a low around 68. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday we do have a 50% chance of showers and then partly sunny with a high near 83.
I want to mention iwantagreathomeloan.com. And I'm big into checking out your options, and I know a lot of you, and you've done it before, and you'll do it again, or maybe you haven't, but you will first time around. When you need a home loan or refinancing, you go to iwantagreathomeloan.com. But you may be loyal to your bank, your institution, financial. You've been there for decades, and I get that. But I would recommend when you do go and you find out what rates, what terms, and all of that's involved when it comes to either getting a home loan or refinancing with that institution you're comfortable with, go ahead and go to iwantagreathomeloan.com and see what they can do for you as well. It doesn't cost you anything at all. And then you can at least know, and hey, you know what? If your financial institution is going to do a better deal for you, then go for that. And if anything, you can have that security in your mind of knowing that, yeah, I must have gotten a good deal. I checked a couple of places, checked around, but you may find out that you can get a better deal with iwantagreathomeloan.com. So even if they're not your first choice, definitely make them your second. iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. Christy Fulnecki is with us.
Yes, yes.
So the cheating thing, and a lot of people are like, what's the point? They're going to cheat anyway. Well, I don't like. To me, that's surrender, and I don't like surrender.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. And there are some, not everyone. But there are, in fact, there was some polling. I have an article, in fact, talking about the number of people that believe it's like, 62% of voters are concerned cheating will affect the 2024 election, according to a new poll. And so there are some that say, well, I'm not even going to bother to vote. Well, then I don't know. Everyone's got a different mindset. I don't like whimpering, limping away, surrendering. I like to fight to the end. That's just me. But we have an electoral college system, and fortunately, that gives a degree of buffer against cheating, because you look at it and say, there were millions of votes that were illegally counted. Only about 21,000 actually made the difference, and that's because there were 3 states that made the difference, and between those 3 states, Joe Biden won collectively with about 21,000 votes. So if you think about COVID, you think about the fact that, people were just exhausted of 4 years of, what they felt was chaos because of Trump and, and all of that stuff. And the marketing pitch was Joe Biden in charge will make everything normal. There will be no more chaos. Everything will be great. And the conditions at the time, I think, were favorable for Biden to make that argument. And with all of the cheating, that if you believe that there was a significant amount, as I do, still 21,000 votes is all that they were able to get in order to push them over the edge. I don't see that this time around there have been any new forms of voting that will make it as easy to cheat. That was the other advantage they had. They had all the drop boxes. They had all this new COVID stuff. Yeah. That while some of that still does exist, some of it does not. There's not more of it. There is less of it. Now, the states that matter, I don't know offhand whether or not it's in play, but I know it's not worse than it was before. And so given the conditions that exist now, to me, it is unquestionable that even with cheating, to the degree that it has been done in the past, it is certainly possible for Trump to still win.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. I totally think he will.
That's my assessment on it.
Yeah. I just wondered if those states had changed your laws from...
some have, some haven't. Now, we were talking about the different options, and you had mentioned different options that Democrats had for presidential candidates, but the vice presidential candidate thing is, going on right now. And I genuinely thought this to myself. Would you want to be on this ticket as vice president?
On this train wreck? That's why I thought Pete Buttigieg would be good for them, because...
Oh, I saw he was mentioned.
Yeah, they were
I know. I was like,
why not?
Put him on there. I'd be like,
I mean, if
how many train derailments literally and figuratively, have you been involved with Pete?
Listen,
I mean,
if they are going to
I think
take
it's him.
Kamala Harris, whose
Yeah.
job, whose number one priority was the border, and put her up, then why not Pete Buttigieg? When you look at because his track record as transportation secretary is about on par with hers as border
It would
secretary.
be perfect. I think they would be a perfect match.
Like, you like losers? Losers squared, baby.
That could be their campaign.
Yeah, losers squared. And I could honestly see him do it because can you imagine the first openly gay vice president in the history of that they'd have that?
Say, well, we have
So
all the
then,
breakfast checked.
if you don't support him, not only are you misogynistic and racist, but you're also a homophobe.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
So they can throw that in.
Another
Yeah,
yeah.
another label.
I don't know. But I would love that pick. If I'm JD Vance and I'm in a debate with that guy,
You can just walk over,
where
pick
do
him
you
up, and
start?
throw him.
Where do you start? I mean, that would be such a great debate. I mean, it's just like failure from beginning to end.
Let me tell you what I do think will be funny. There's been talk about Shapiro, who is the governor of Pennsylvania, and that's a name that's very new to a lot of people, but he's a Democrat governor that many people see as he could be a stabilizing force because he's considered normal. I mean, compared to
he speaks normally.
compared to like Kamala Harris, he's like normal. You could look at him and go, okay, that guy seems normal at least, but he's Jewish. And of course, you've got, I mean, this very clear and unapologetic desire to win over the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party. So that's largely why many are like, they'll never pick her, or she'll never pick him, or she'll never be allowed to pick him, because then that will alienate the neo-Nazi wing of the Democrat Party. But I could see them thinking, well, maybe we can have best of both worlds. We can get the Jewish vote by having a Jew on the ticket, but we can also get the anti-Jewish vote by catering to the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party. I could see them making that position because they've kind of tried to navigate that, but the thing is, it doesn't work. You cannot do that.
In the end, like they're all so radical, especially Kamala. I mean, if for her not even to show up and not Netanyahu's speech, I mean, that is disgraceful. And to not even say anything about all the violence going on. I'm just waiting. I wonder if I'll be called to represent any of those people if they actually got arrested.
Oh, yeah, right.
Storming the Capitol.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obstructing an official process.
Well, it's
so I wonder what's going to happen.
Because they're not a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Jesse Fulnecki with us. More ahead. I'm Nick Reed. All right, I got some audio. This is a song I'm gonna play here.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Are you gonna translate, Sarah? This is what is called a corrido. And a corrido is a traditional folk song, often using heavy accordions, that narrate dramatic events in history. And evidently, there are multiple different corridas that have gone viral that are sort of honoring or celebrating Trump surviving the assassination. I think that one's called "Christ Protects
I
Him."
did hear El Blanco, which I think means white person.
Okay. So yeah, this one is Trump assassination attempt corrido. Declares Trump escape a miracle and proclaims him as protected by Jesus Christ. The lyrics translated: his head was the target, giving him death was the objective. Who knows for what reason they don't want Trump alive, but a miracle happened because that shot missed. The very scared people thought he had died. Amid the cries, more shots were heard. With blood on his face, Donald Trump got up, lifting both hands, saying, "I'm here. Let's keep fighting." And the people became happy. Donald Trump is still alive because Christ protects him. It's like a 4-minute song, 4.5-minute song. But evidently there are numerous versions of these.
Not even heard that. That is so cool. I love that. Now I know what to listen to in my car.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you search that on Apple, by the way?
You could just be so corrido, corridos. That's the category of song, like the traditional folk song where they sing about someone.
I'm gonna come up with.
Yeah, I don't honestly know how you would find it either.
Trump Churritos.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's kind of catchy.
No, I think it's awesome. Well, Hispanic people are very religious. I mean, if you want to be stereotyping, but
I talked towards the end of the show yesterday about a couple of different comments that were made. One, Mark Zuckerberg, clearly not a Trump supporter, but he had said, I don't know if he had posted it or an interview, but that was one of the most badass things he'd ever seen. Yeah. Trump being defiant. And then Jack Osborne, who's an anti-Trump guy, is the Osborne family, Ozzy Osbourne's son, and he was talking about how he's going to vote for him after that because he saw what he thinks you see in a real leader, and he noted that, I inferred from what he was saying that, yeah, Trump's a big talker, but was he really as big, as much of a man as he said? And what Jack Osborne was saying is that, a lot of people talk big, but if they're shot at, they're going to run away as fast as possible. He goes, but when you saw that he defiantly pushed through the Secret Service trying to cover him up so that he could let people see that he was still standing, he goes, that's when I thought this guy's for real. And I'm going to support him now, and that's what leaders are. And I thought it was interesting because in an age where we have increasingly erased manliness, that really resonates with people. I mean, you think about even growing up, the cartoons, He-Man, G.I. Joe, even Transformers, though they were robots. You had Optimus. You had, it's sort of, it projected what we're told today is toxic masculinity. And I think that I don't know, you can try and to a degree be successful if you have charge over society, particularly in the schools, of stripping away certain admirations of certain human characteristics through education. But we're still human. And when you get really down to the root of it, particularly in a circumstance that that you aren't accustomed to, because it's sort of like an Etch-a-Sketch and it erases everything, so your preconceived notions are gone. I'm sure Jack Osborne, like so many others who are lefties, generally buy into the toxic masculinity and all that sort of stuff. But all of a sudden, this is a whole different thing. You see somebody shot at, you see that visual, and it sort of erases all those preconditioned notions. And so it's just the raw emotion, and getting that feeling of that when you saw that, and like, yes, that is awesome. Not that he was shot at, but that he stood up, he was defiant. And I think that shows that you cannot, in the end, ultimately smash out what makes people, what makes a man, what makes a woman, as much as they want to try.
Yeah.
And I think that's just an interesting component to all this.
And it was able to see the strength of character that he had. And I'm sure the Democrats are like, I'm sure they were so angry at that picture and then him standing up thinking, we need to figure out how to do that. I mean, because to them, everything's about polling and trying to do the same thing that Republicans naturally do.
Do you think we can get Biden to jog up the stairs? Or maybe next time he falls down, he can get up on his own. Do you think? Let's practice that.
He walked from the car after he disappeared, and I think that like the top Google search was like, "Is Biden dead?" I know I was doing that. I was like, "Is Biden still alive?" And so, I mean, it was probably triumphant that he walked from the car to the plane. Everybody's watching to see if he fell.
Yeah, so they're like, "See, Trump, he's not the only one." More with Christy Fulnecki moments. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki with us. A number of messages on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line noting that they've seen that, a number of J6 prisoners have been freed. Others just saying flat out, hey, what's the latest on yours, or whatever you can say.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. Well, I mean, depending on the U.S. attorney, they're taking it kind of case by case on dropping the obstruction charges, and so. One of them, they're just most of them, if they have an extra charge, like, so the ones that have obstruction, most of their cases are, which a lot of them had the obstruction. That's the Supreme Court case.
Right. That they were
yeah.
obstructing the official law enforcement or
Yeah.
whatever.
So that was the main felony. But then, my clients had other things, assaulting a police officer, and that.
Did any of
and that-
them also have that though?
Oh,
Any
yeah,
of your,
yeah,
okay,
most-
so
yeah.
that at least is gone
Yeah,
for them.
sh- Many people, I think almost. I mean, there's 1,100 had the obstruction.
Right.
And then one of my other clients was convicted in May. I think I talked about that on the radio. So so that's kind of sad, but he got 12 of the 14. They had asked for 14, he got 12. But then now there's a group email going around. Nobody had really, the attorneys hadn't talked openly about, if Trump gets elected in this, but there's a lot of conversation about, okay, so people are almost assuming Trump's getting elected, and then how that panel's going to look to review each of the cases. Most people are trying to push out their cases to after the election. So
Trump, he's talked a little bit about this, and I think one of the efforts of the media in order to harm Trump is going to be to get him to make comments about these individuals that they can characterize as insurrectionists and rioters and people trying to kill police, and Trump wants to let them out, saying they're peaceful protesters. My approach, if I'm asked about will I pardon these people, if I'm Trump, I would say we're going to look at it case by case basis and make sure that they are treated just like everyone else has been treated. Anyone else who has ever entered the Capitol in a protest, whether it's for the Kavanaugh hearings or to protest Benjamin Netanyahu's address, if they were treated more harshly, then we're going to look at a pardon.
Yeah.
Because all we want is to make sure everyone has equal justice, because I think most reasonable Americans agree with that.
Well, and they do need to look at it case by case, because there was an Antifa that actually had pushed my client into the police officer, and I don't know how many years he ended up getting, but you want to definitely look at that, because there weren't a lot of Antifa people. I saw some comment, oh, well, they were breaking the windows of the Capitol. I am convinced those were Antifa, because
there were some Antifa there. I mean, like you said, one of them's been convicted, so it's not people say it's a conspiracy. No, you're not. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating.
But I want to mention this, because I was telling a client this yesterday, is that they're still arresting people for January 6th. My client was arrested last November, and then I got a call from a lady in January. They're still arresting people for January today, and they still want to do, I think it's 1,000 before the election.
Yeah, it's mass roundup.
Yeah.
For a political party that once again says Donald Trump gets elected, he's going to mass round up political opponents. What do you think's still happening?
Yeah. I mean, all they have to do is talk about it, because I'm telling you that the average person, when I mention something about, I say it openly now, because I'm not met with as much resistance now than I was before about representing January 6th. And most people just wherever they'll say, I just think that's so unfair.
Yeah. Christy Fulnecki, as always, a great pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be here next week.
All right, we got Author of the Week in the next hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. We have Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Tomorrow, we have, what is it? It's a Heroes Breakfast. That's what we've got. I had last week's happy hour on my mind, or a couple weeks ago. So if you are a veteran, be sure to come out as you join us, and hopefully join us as we have breakfast tomorrow at Scramblers. I'm trying to get it all together. There are like 8 things going on in the studio here. You have to forgive me. Usually a little bit better at focusing than that. But so the way it works, 6 to 9, we're out there on location, Scramblers. Scramblers, along with Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, and Serenity Honors buy breakfast for you as a veteran. So just come on out and join us for that. Before we get the latest news and weather, Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, with more rain in the forecast. Can your roof handle another storm? If you are worried about your roof health, don't go at it alone. Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company, they can definitely help you out. They are the trusted roofing professionals, and whenever you call Josh and his team, they're going to come out, they'll do a free roof inspection for you, and they are not a hard sell. They're not going to make you sign anything whenever they come out. They're not going to make you sign anything whenever you work through that insurance process. They get it. They get that buying a new roof isn't necessarily a fun purchase. It can be stressful. It can be frustrating. And so they really do want to make that process just as simple as possible. Now, if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out at your home, go ahead and give Josh a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
Let's do a quick news update.
And your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we do have a slight chance of showers, mainly after 1 p.m. Otherwise sunny with a high near 89. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 68. For your Friday, sunny skies with a high near 87. And for Saturday, 50% chance of showers and then partly sunny with a high near 83.
We're going to get a traffic update, and then we've got Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, Ken Kajigian, and his book is Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon. He worked with both Reagan and Nixon, and the timing of this could not be more perfect, given that within the last couple of weeks, we have seen a president of the United States not resign the presidency, but his reelection bid, and then, of course, the shooting of the current or the past President Trump. And given that our author worked in 2 administrations that dealt with very similar situations, I thought this would be a perfect time for this new book to talk with him behind closed doors in the room with Reagan and Nixon. So that in just moments. First, traffic. Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. The author is Ken Kachigian. The book is Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon, to have served in one capacity or another with both of these individuals. He's Director Emeritus of the Richard Nixon Foundation Board of Directors, veteran of nine presidential campaigns, chief speechwriter, and senior political advisor for President Reagan. He was the trusted political advisor, favorite scribe to Reagan, and go-to counsel for Reagan and Nancy Reagan in campaigns and political crisis, and he served in Richard Nixon's White House and with Nixon as he emerged from Watergate. Quite an impressive resume. I thank you for being with us, and if you don't mind, let's start off with, how did you get involved? What was your start in politics?
Well, I was a second year law student at Columbia back. I hate to admit I'm so old, I guess. Back in 1967, and I saw an ad in New York, not an ad, but an article in the New York Times about Nixon making a comeback, and I thought, but back in those days, nobody thought he could ever become president again, and the favored candidates were Romney and Rockefeller and actually Reagan. So I wrote a letter to him, and after it didn't get responded, I rewrote it, complained that they didn't answer it, and rewrote it, and actually it was hand delivered by my wife, who worked on Wall Street, and Pat Buchanan answered it, and I got an interview with Pat Buchanan. By the way, who worked in Missouri, you know, at the St. Louis Globe Democrat. Right. And so Pat answered it, and I went in for an interview, and got a job answering correspondence as a volunteer as a second-year law student. And that summer, I got hired working in the 68 campaign, working for a guy named Alan Greenspan. You may have heard of his name. And so that summer I worked in the 68 campaign, and after I passed the bar in California, finishing law school, I came back and started working in the White House in 1970. So that's how I got my start, and worked in the Nixon White House until he resigned, and then came back to California with him, and helped work on his memoirs, and then the David Frost interviews. I led the research for him on the David Frost interviews, and became very close to him during that period, and then throughout the rest of his life, we became very, very close. And then he introduced me to Ronald Reagan through Ronald Reagan's campaign manager, and that's how I hooked up with Reagan in the 1980 campaign. Became his chief speechwriter for the campaign in 1980, and traveled with him through that campaign. And then Reagan asked me to stay on to help start the administration in 81. So that's the quick version of my story, Nate.
Well, and I love books like this. I love the inside view, and an inside view that's relatively objective. And I'm, even though it's not the purpose of the book, given the two administrations and the history along with it, I am going to want to ask you what your thoughts on some of the events that have unfolded over the past month. But I do wonder, as I hear people that they talk about Trump who know Trump, and you see Trump on television. He's got a lot of vibrato, and a lot of people think he's brash. But one of the things I hear about people who know Trump, they say, he in person, he's really warm and he's funny. He's one of the funniest people. I hear that a lot. What was Richard? I think people get a sense of what Reagan was like. What they saw was Reagan. They felt he was a warm, genuine person. But Richard Nixon, particularly for those that weren't adults during that period of time, they just see history, seems sort of like this curmudgeon old guy. What was he like in person?
Nixon was a great raconteur. I mean, he really enjoyed the back and forth. We spent hours and hours and hours together. He was when we weren't working on his memoirs, he was a great storyteller. He loved talking politics, and we went back and forth all the time about political personalities and the politics of the day, whether back then it was the 76 campaign or the 80 campaign, and then when Reagan became president. But talking to Nixon, it was talking about Winston Churchill or Indira Gandhi or Dwight Eisenhower or some of the other great leaders. He'd bring up Khrushchev or somebody like that. It was so fascinating. But no, he wasn't a curmudgeon. I mean, at Christmas time, we'd have parties at his house, and he'd start pounding on the Christmas carols on the piano, and he'd call me on New Year's Eve and wish me Happy New Year. But sure, he was a tough guy.
Right.
I mean, what the hell? He spent time in the Navy and in World War II, so he was a sailor. But that's the kind of person you'd want as president of the United States. You didn't want anybody who was soft.
Do you know if it's true? I had read once, and maybe this is common knowledge, maybe not, whether it's true or not, and I just found it to be interesting. I think I read once that he funded his very first political campaign from poker winnings.
Yeah. True. Yeah, he was quite a poker player in the South Pacific. He was they called him Nick Nixon, and he was a heck of a poker player. Which served him well when he was negotiating with the Soviets or the Chinese or whoever. No, he was a great poker player. He had several $1,000s in savings, and helped start up his 1946 political campaign. He and Jack Kennedy were seatmates on the House Un-American Campaign Committee. They entered Congress at the same time back in 1946. Both World War II veterans.
Yeah. We're talking with our author. We're talking with our author of the week, Ken Kachigian. The book is Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon. Now, whether you want to call, I suppose, the Biden situation a scandal, but Watergate, and I think it's fair to say the resignation of Biden from his reelection campaign. They're both historic events. They certainly would be what would be considered completely unexpected and change the course of history. What do you think about all of this with Biden and what appears to be 2 years of cover-up, not just with staff, but with media and even world leaders who, according to the Washington Journal piece, I mean, many of them went on record saying, oh, yeah, for a couple years we've known that this guy has been losing it. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, that's bothered me because, we're coming on to the 50th observance of the President Nixon's resignation from Watergate, and everybody's going to relive that and dance on his grave and everything else about the so-called cover-up and everything else. But there was a big cover-up, in my judgment, going on with Biden's cognitive issues over the last 2 years. And here's a person, and this wasn't just about some, political hijinks about breaking into the opposition headquarters. This is about the person who has the nuclear football and who's had in his hands the fate of the entire Western world, and this is the staff, his staff, and congressional leaders and everybody else who was working with him knew about somebody who was slipping, and whose mind was not the same as it was 4 or 6 years ago when he was. Knew what he was doing. And now this is somebody who's negotiating with the Soviets, negotiating with the Chinese, or the wackos over in North Korea. And, he didn't have it all with him. And he had the ability to make international decisions. And that kind of cover-up, to me, is a lot more serious and a lot more dangerous. And it really bothersome, very frankly, Nick.
You, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking with Ken Kachigian, and among other things, he was chief speechwriter and senior political advisor for President Reagan. We just, July 13th, saw the President of the United States shot in dramatic fashion, as was Reagan also shot in dramatic fashion. In terms of potential actual physical impact, Reagan was much more touch and go than Trump was, but still, but I think Trump's was as impacting because of the visuals of it. Just seeing all of it play out is just remarkable. But if you would talk to us, your memories of Reagan being shot, what that was like, and then when you heard the news about Trump or saw that, what that was like for you, given your experience with Reagan.
Yeah, it was a flashback. That was quite a day. I was the last person to talk to President Reagan before he left for the Washington Hilton, and I devote a whole chapter of my book. It's called "The President's Been Shot," and with a detailed hour by hour detailing of what happened that day. And I had helped write the speech that he devoted over the Washington Hilton, and I was going to accompany him that day. I normally would have gone with him, having worked on his speech as senior person, and I instead sent one of the junior speechwriters. And so I would have been walking out the door right next to Jim Brady and Mike Deaver.
Wow.
And so I literally dodged a bullet that day. And so it brought really vivid memories to me. So when I heard that he was shot, President Trump was shot, it brought back memories when I first heard that President Reagan was shot. I was having lunch after lunch with Marty Anderson. And, we ran down later to the Situation Room with Al Haig, and Al Haig was making phone calls on a national security line to Vice President Bush, who was flying in from Houston. And, we didn't know if it was an international conspiracy or what until, things settled down a little bit. And then finally, we found out that President Reagan was doing a lot better. But the initial concerns were that we didn't know if President Reagan's life was in danger, but for the first few hours, things were pretty hectic until things quieted down. Vice President Bush returned, and I sat down with Vice President Bush and helped him write a speech that he delivered to make a statement to calm things down a little bit.
We're talking with Ken Kachigian. The book is Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon. One of the, though there are not the visuals of it, but you get the stories afterwards, and you can correct me if I'm inaccurate on this, but that Reagan attempted to walk into the hospital. He wanted to display that strength, and he did as long as he could. With Trump, there was a visual demonstration of what many people interpreted of strength, where the Secret Service is trying to cover him up, and he breaks through to let the crowd know he's in for the fight. What did you think about that?
Well, I thought that was very dangerous. Very frankly, he exposed himself to another shot, and he probably shouldn't have done that. So
sure makes for a great photo, though.
Made for a great photo, but he exposed himself to another shot, and I don't think that was a wise decision.
Well, before we let you go, any advice you have for Trump? Just in the whole scheme of things.
In the whole scheme of things in this campaign, I think throughout this campaign, I know it's a little hard for him, but I think will serve him well to take a lesson from what he survived. His little humility will serve him well through the rest of the year. I know that's not in his character, but in addition to the bravado, a little humility will serve him well. That's the kind of that trait would go over in the Midwest, especially, I think, Nick.
Can I ask you one other question? Do you mind?
Sure.
I know I said only one more, but given particularly, Nixon and his foreign policy successes and Reagan and his foreign policy successes, in my mind, and I'm not a historian, but I don't know that there's been any other president that has had such results since Reagan and Nixon when it came to foreign policy as Trump did, whether it's the Abraham Accords or keeping, Putin at bay. You know, he stopped that invasion that began in Ukraine, North Korea, the advancements there. And, of course, he is portrayed as the opposite. He has no clue what he's doing. He's a bumbling idiot. And I think that his success came from largely, Nixon as a poker player. Trump knows how to read people. He's street smarts. That's what he understands, and I think that's where his success comes from, not from a book, but from reading and understand people, and the results are there. So I was just interested, given that you served in 2 administrations very closely with 2 men that had such great foreign policy successes that were long-lasting implications, what you think about Trump and his results and the way that he approached foreign relations.
I think he had good instincts. I think he just has very good instincts as a negotiator in the business community, and I think he just knows what he's doing, and it's had good results. It's you can tell the man's been a good businessman, and it's shown, and tough, and people respect him.
You think that would be what would matter ultimately, the results, wouldn't you?
Okay.
Hey, well, listen, go. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to take another call.
Yeah, I'm sorry I kept you longer than I should have, but I really enjoyed talking with you. Our author of the week, Ken Kachigian, the book Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon, sponsored by ABC Books on Northglenn Zone. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Great. Take care.
All right, you do the same. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Aaron Lewis, Black Oak Amphitheater in Lampe. It's the American Patriot Tour, Saturday, August 3rd. So coming up pretty quick. That must be why it's your last chance to win a pair of tickets to the show at KSGF.com. And a reminder, just over 24 hours from now, 10 a.m. Friday, local for less Ozarks at KSGF.com. For $12.50, you get a $25 gift certificate to Cabos Bonitos Grill and Cantina, and you can buy up to 4 of them should you like. It is a Heroes Breakfast tomorrow at Scramblers, free breakfast for veterans as we broadcast live 6A to 9A. Scramblers tomorrow with Serenity Honors Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and Delta Roofing.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we do have a slight chance of showers, mainly after 1 p.m. Otherwise sunny with a high near 89. Tonight partly cloudy with a low around 68. For your Friday, sunny skies with a high near 87. And on Saturday, a 50% chance of showers and then partly sunny with a high near 83.
Where the party of censorship is on full display, and we talked about how the media is already trying to rewrite history, and they're even like re-editing things regarding Kamala Harris being the border czar. That is a title that was given to her by Democrats and by the media in order to build her up, show how important she was within the administration whenever the announcement was made that was going to be her job. Now they're claiming as that's something that's being used against her, rightfully so, by Republicans, because see what a tremendous job. I mean, you could just see now, if you love what Kamala did on the border, you'll love what she, or if you like what Kamala did with our border, you'll love what she'll do to our country. There's a bumper sticker right there. That needs to be something that people post everywhere. If you like what Kamala did with the border, you'll love what she'll do to the country. And they know that is not a real big selling point with the American people right now. So they're trying to claim that was never a job of hers. Axios, one of the outlets that has tried to claim that, the receipts, if you will, have been brought by people saying, you're the ones who have called her that. Everyone was calling her that. And Axios has said, oh, well, we were wrong. So just forget about it. Didn't happen. Now they are trying to diminish her role, saying, well, she was just supposed to find the root cause, or she was just supposed to do the this or the that. She was just addressing the diplomatic aspect of it. Well, okay. So then that brings a couple of questions. One, did she succeed? I'd like to get some sort of report on how she did. Is the border that we have experienced through the Biden-Harris tenure a result in any way, shape, or form of what she did? And if not, if we're to be told, no, what she was to do doesn't have anything to do with the actual security of the border, then what was the point? She was just given a show job? Is that what their messaging is? That she was given a job just to look as if she was doing something with the border, but in reality, nothing that she could do would actually have an impact on the border? And if it wasn't her job, then whose was it? I mean, these are reasonable questions. They're not reasonable. That understates them. They are required questions. At the same time, we played an ad that has been making the rounds, is running in Pennsylvania against the incumbent Democrat running for U.S. Senate, tying him to Kamala Harris. It opens with him talking about how great Kamala is, and then the rest of the ad is Kamala talking about how we should give free health care to illegals, that we should dismantle ICE, that we should defund the police, that we should crack down on people's freedom to eat meat, just all of the insane things that this lunatic believes. And one of the clips in there is Norah O'Donnell interviewing Kamala about being ranked one of the most liberal senator in the U.S. Senate. And of course, she's like, well, I know I've been labeled that. And so Norah O'Donnell points out, well, no, GovTrack is the one who, this isn't a Republican that did it, GovTrack, which they score these things. They go through and they look at the voting records of everyone. It's not a left group, it's supposed to be nonpartisan. They don't work on behalf of anyone's campaign. It's just a ranking system. It's not saying, oh, this is good or this is bad. Like here's over here is number one most liberal. Over here is number one most conservative. And they are the ones that ranked it that way. Once that ad hit the air, guess what happened? The 2019 GovTrack score deleted off the internet. They deleted it. This supposedly nonpartisan institution has wiped at least their site clean of that ranking. Of course, unfortunately for them, people have snapshots and so forth, and then there's Nora O'Donnell asking Kamala Harris about it. But this is what we're up against. I think most of us are aware of it, but we do have to be prepared for the fact that all of the censorship that Democrats push, the totalitarian lockdown on information, that they push the suppression of political opposition, speaking their, sharing their ideas and their thoughts and their criticisms. I buckle up, because that was just an appetizer. That was a warm up for what we're about to see, particularly given the Supreme Court essentially giving the green light to the administration to censor away. And so we, as human beings who want to, and as Americans who want to share our thoughts, to expose the truth, to have the free exchange of ideas, we are going to be in a battle unlike any battle we have ever seen here in the United States of America. It's been, China. People in China deal with this. People in North Korea deal with this. People in the former Soviet Union dealt with this. We're not the only ones in the world, and we're certainly not the only ones in the world in history that have had to deal with it. But we used to be the country that was that shining light on a hill, the place that people from all over the world, from suppressive regimes, would come to so that they could have freedom of speech, so they did not have to worry about the government censoring them, suppressing their thoughts and their free speech just because they were political opposition. But that, sadly, under the Democrats, is no longer the case in the United States of America. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Quick Draw Gun in Monette. It is the go-to gun shop in Southwest Missouri. Not only do they have hundreds of accessories to choose from, but they also have firearms that you will not find anywhere else in Southwest Missouri. And they also offer tons of legacy firearms that would make a great family heirloom to pass down generation to generation, and antique firearms as well. Plus, they also offer scope mounting, minor gunsmithing services, and custom laser engraving and Cerakoting services, which are great gift options. If you haven't been to the shop yet, you're really missing out. It's about an hour drive from Springfield, just a straight shot down 60. It is well worth the drive down there. Now, in the meantime, if you are out there looking for a specific firearm, specific accessory, or you're looking to sell your collection of firearms, go ahead and give Brad and his team a call today. You can find all of that contact information for Quick Draw Gun, plus shop hours, store address. All of that is housed under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. A couple of your text messages. If I hear conservative Lincoln Huff one more time, I'm going to scream. Yes, I know you are not the only one. Our text line is populated with quite a few text messages regarding the ads claiming that Lincoln Huff is conservative. The Supreme Court, and I agree with the decision, by the way, some time ago, I think it actually may have referenced just federal races specifically, but nonetheless, it should apply to all races, that candidates are legally allowed to lie, even about factual information. I want to say that it was in the 70s or 80s, I think 70s, there was a Supreme Court challenge regarding an ad in which one of the candidates was just straight up lying. I mean, it was just clear. But the court had ruled that is your constitutional right. This is part of free speech, is to lie, and I agree with that, because if the answer to bad speech is more free speech, to counter it, and then people can make the decision for themselves. Otherwise, you have people making the decision for you. And some of you will agree with this, some of you will not. I suspect most of you will agree, but if the decision is made that, no, it's illegal to lie in a campaign ad, well, who makes the decision? I mean, now the left would love that sort of law. I mean, they're already using government to suppress free speech that they don't like. And they deem anything with which they disagree a lie. Therein comes even that. What's the definition of a lie? Well, you know how the left is. They redefine words all the time. Words are completely up for grabs. And they have taken to redefine lie as anything with which they disagree. So who makes those decisions? And this is why you just say, all right, it's fair game. People can say what they want. If somebody's lying about, now, you have the right in certain capacities to sue civilly. That's a different situation. But when it comes to government interfering and deciding, okay, we're going to decide who's lying and who's telling the truth, and look, we've seen that happen. This is how the Hunter Biden laptop story got suppressed. Government decided it was a lie, and so government calls all of their buddies in the social media sectors and all of their buddies and propagandists in the media and say, "Oh, the laptop's a lie. It's Russian disinformation." Okay, we won't proceed. And look how that turned out. Who got to choose? Who got to define it as a lie? Oh, lo and behold, the people who benefited from doing so. Isn't that amazing how it works? We are all much, much, much better off accepting a world in which elected officials or people running for office are allowed to lie, and that means hearing Lincoln Huff described as a conservative in campaign ads. I don't like it any more than you do, other than it helps keep us on air. Money, money, money. What was the other text? There was another text that I wanted to get to here. Oh, I've already seen articles saying Trump is too old compared to Harris now. Well, of course. You're supposed to completely forget the whole ageism argument. This is the way that it works with the left. It's Orwellian. The truth is there is no truth other than what they say at any given moment. And the people who were railing against citizens, who had concerns about Joe Biden being too old, are now saying, well, Trump's too old. even though Trump is the age that Biden was when he first ran, or not first ran, not the time that he had to drop out because of plagiarism or the other time he had to drop out because of plagiarism, but the time that he actually ran and won. There's a snapshot that was sent in Newsweek 20 hours ago. Donald Trump supporters flipping to Kamala Harris, new poll. Now, I don't have to read the poll. Listen, I'm a big believer in research and knowing what you're talking about. I don't have to know anything about that poll to know that it's crap. I don't have to. I don't have to know the methodology. I don't have to know the idea that people who have been supporters of Donald Trump all of a sudden have decided they really like what Kamala Harris has to offer is nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. You might as well have a headline that says Kamala Harris supporters flipping to Trump. Now, why would anyone who supports Kamala Harris all of a sudden, there's a difference between supporters and somebody who supports. You know what I mean? Because you can at some point be like on the fence. I don't really know. Kind of go back and forth. But when you say Trump supporter, when a headline says Trump supporter, you're talking about a supporter of Trump, not maybe I kind of am leaning towards. And the idea that somebody who believes in Trump, who believes in what he's done, believes in his vision for the country, believes of his interpretation of who we are as people, would all of a sudden be like, no, Kamala, she speaks to me more. No. Not without getting hit in the head. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Tax hike Mike. Love them tax increases. Tax increase 1, tax increase 2, tax increase 3, tax increase 4, tax increase 5. You know, if Mike Keogh does not become governor, he at least can still have comfort knowing that he's making an impact when those subsequent tax increases, I think we have two more or three more that he helped push through, kick in. So there is at least the butterfly effect, if you will. There's that residual Kehoe influence that we will have. I want to read to you what Nate said about Emily Johnson House Theory Realty. We had such a wonderful selling experience because of our realtor. She was very kind. She explained everything clearly, walked us through issues, was very thorough. She kept us up to date every step of the way. She made what could be a stressful time easy because of the support she offers. We very highly recommend Emily Johnson to anyone looking for a wonderful realtor, and that's what you get consistently with reviews. I can attest to that. Sarah can attest to that. I know many of you can. I love when when Emily joins us out at Scramblers and talks about, we're doing a closing, and she's like, oh, yeah, they're listeners of the show. Or I see reviews of some of you that I know. I just love that. It's fantastic. And that's what you get with Emily Johnson House Theory Realty, whether you're looking to buy or looking to sell. Emily Johnson House Theory Realty. Trump effect. Ukraine says it is willing and ready for dialogue with Russia. Well, look at that. Look at that. Ukrainian foreign minister. Now, it was a couple days ago. You had Zelensky acknowledging that if Trump gets elected, he is ready to do what is necessary in order, if that sit down, have a meeting, then so be it. And now you have the Ukrainian foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, telling top Communist Chinese Party diplomats in Beijing yesterday that his country is willing and ready for dialogue and negotiations with Russia. And we are beginning to see come into focus this realization that in all likelihood, Donald Trump is at least potentially going to be once again president of the United States. And after the Abraham Accords, after seeing all of the foreign policy successes during his first term, you can tell that some of these world leaders see what potentially is coming down the road. See you at Scramblers tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.